Bill Oliva is going to talk to us all about bridge preservation and asset management. Bill is the Chief of Structures Development for Wisconsin DOT Bureau of Structures. He's a registered professional engineer and hydrologist in Wisconsin. He oversees the development of structures, policy and standards, bridge management, and load ratings for WSDOT Bureau of Structures. He serves as the chair for Wisconsin Highway Research Program Structures Technical Oversight Committee, and WSDOT Bridge Technical Committee. He is also a member of the AASHTO Subcommittee on Bridges and Structures T11 Research, TRBAF H40 Bridge Construction, and TRB Subcommittee on Accelerated Bridge Construction. So please help me welcome Bill.
So what we've been doing is working on a process to utilize all that good inspection information in our inventory data. You know, we kind of look at bridge management and asset management as kind of a inner relationship that kind of builds towards a goal. So with our inventory data and various goals and investment strategies and our bridge management system, data management system, highway structure information system, and all that is really aimed at getting us to investment, to meet goals. So, the big picture is get that inspection information in and have it yield program and project needs out. So with preservation, we want to maximize the useful service life of bridges. And to us, a lot of that is applying the appropriate bridge preservation treatments and activities at the proper time, making sure we sequence it correctly through that life cycle of that bridge. We did develop a bridge preservation policy, and it was published in 2016. A lot of this information we've shared with the partnership, and Scott Settlemeyer's group has got a lot of this, and I think it's going to be out for discussion and during one of the work group sessions. But we built a preservation policy, and we consulted, national sources, research related, as well as our own Wisconsin bridge maintenance engineers. And here's a few of them that participated in that. And a couple of these guys, I believe Dave Bonzak and Tom Hardinger, are here at the conference. And I would really recommend talking with them, because what was important was not just a national or theoretical perspective, but an actual practitioner input on this. So there's a lot of elements that you got to weigh into this to get a policy. The policy does have goals. We wanted 95% of our bridges in good and fair condition, 95% of the decks in good and fair, and various goals between 90 and 95% of the steel surfaces, expansion joints, bearings in condition state 2 or better. So we're kind of mixing and matching here between NBI and element level performance goals. But as we made that transition from NBI to the element level, that's just where we found ourselves in time. Within our policy, we've got an eligibility matrix, and it has cyclical and condition-based activities in there that are both indicated by NBI and condition state, for decks, joints, railings. And we've got a criteria in there. It relates to the defects. It has the repair actions in there, the potential benefit, as well as the service life extension. So these are just parts of the tables. They're actually much broader, and really look at the bridge overall in various aspects of it. But you can see some of those work rules here, and these are very important to what what we're building towards in the future. So part of this is not just to have a policy on what we want to do and what our goals are and what might be the criteria to trigger these works, but also to have an ability to do the work, to fund the work. And part of that stemmed from our Federal Highway Preventative Maintenance Agreement. So here in May of 2016, we actually updated and signed a new agreement with Federal Highways. And what was important in our new agreement was it kind of opened the door for some additional work types that we couldn't do historically, because we didn't have a completely functional bridge asset management system in place. This agreement also had more work types in there, and it discussed the systematic criteria, tools, and process for implementing preventative maintenance and preservation type work. So we really got that incorporated in there. Really with these, the agreements that we have, our state as well as many of yours with federal highways, and the real issue at hand is where's the line between routine maintenance and preventative maintenance and preservation. And the preservation end of it gives us a little bit of room for discussion in there. And to us, we wanted the door open as much as possible to have options to fund the work that really did maximize the life cycle benefit of the investment in those structures. So we've got all of these different work activities for bridge decks, whether it be for the deck, the steel or joints, the steel spot painting included, box culverts and slopes, railings, and other things. And, but the bottom line with the agreement was more work types were eligible for funding. And that was a very important thing. Not only do we want to identify it, we want to be able to fund it. So moving forward, we started working with our internal planning and programming people on how do we, now that we can identify the work needs based off of our inspection and current conditions, how do we actually program work based on those needs? So within our financial systems at WISTOT, historically, we had a very limited number, about 6 different types of work that would be flagged by our investment system. That wasn't anywhere near as granular as what we really wanted to do. So we worked to develop and identify a much more broad set of work rules, primary and secondary types, not just deck replacements and overlays, but painting bearings, strip seals, the whole 9 yards is in there. So we've got about 20 primary work activities, which might include replacing the superstructure, replacing deck, various types of overlays. We've got a number of secondary or incidental work types that include things like, resetting bearings and painting, spot painting, zone painting, things of that nature. And then the historic work items we still left in place because we're dealing in our state with a 6-year program and beyond. So we can't, just stop that in the process. We've got to figure out a way to transition from what was to what is and will be. So we couldn't just eliminate those work types. So to do all this, to make sense of this, of the information that we've got from inspection, the policy, and the ability now to program in these work types, we've developed a system called the Wisconsin Structure Asset Management System. Travis McDaniel of our Bureau of Structure, I believe he was the beginner of this concept, but many people within the department have worked on this and contributed to this. And really what it is a simple, practical method for determining optimal work candidates for improving the condition of structures. It does a lot more than that. These candidates can include replacing the structure entirely, and it relies on the historic bridge inspection information. It also has deterioration, so we can look into the future. And that gets a little bit complex in that, we've got NBI and element level information to consider now. So we pull data from our highway structure information system. That's the system that interacts with our inspectors, and they populate that with the regular inspections. The system will identify primary and incidental work types. So that was those charts that we showed earlier. It will calculate the cost of those select work items, and it will calculate a condition assessment index of the bridge prior to and after the work. So you can see the benefit or the value in that investment. And it's really based off of a number of rules. So given the inspection data, whether it is NBI-related information or element-level information, it will, on a regular basis, multiple times a year, originally I think we were thinking about doing this quarterly or every 4 months, but at least twice a year, we go through and run the routine, and it will run through and identify current needs based off of these work rules, and everything from bridge replacement down to overlays and other items in there. This is just a small segment of those work rules, but it will also not only identify the primary work actions, But what's really nice and important about this, it will identify those incidentals and associate them to those bridges at the same time. From a planning and programming end, I think that is priceless in making sure that we scope projects really well, that we program projects really well, and when it comes to scoping them, have the ability to do a much more complete job of it. So, we can certainly identify current needs. The real trick is looking into the future and identifying future needs. So we do have deterioration of NBI values and element values. We also do an analysis of work types already in the program, and we do have the ability to calculate a prioritization index, or something that identifies criticality of the work. This is one part of it that we're still working on. We do have a routine that will do it now, but this is still up to some deliberation and adjustment, because that, again, is potentially where things become a little bit more political, is criticality of one project compared to another. But our programming people in our investment area, as well as our regional people who are actually identifying and programming these projects, it's clear as a bell that they need help with prioritization of the projects. So whether it's our current routine or future routines or whatever you're working on, that's going to be a very important element, because they need the help and they want the help as far as prioritization. So we do deterioration, and this is deterioration of some of the NBI for the superstructure, deck, and substructure. And I believe we did our own regression on these for the NBI. We've borrowed from the BRM developers some of the element level work that they've done, and we look forward to future releases of BRM and information that will help there. Our condition assessment index, it incorporates the deck, superstructure, sub-culvert, paint system, overlay joints, and bearings in there. There might be something else that I'm missing, but it's pretty good measure of the condition. It's almost a health indice of the structure. So we supply this information, current needs and future projections. We supply that information to our investment management, our Central Bureau of Transportation and Investment Management. But we also supply information to the regions. So we'll give them more granular information. So we're not asking our central investment people to program, bearing replacements and things of that nature as part of our 6-year program. But that type of information can come down to our region people, and they can look at what the volume of some of these lesser works are and potentially combine them into economical themed projects. So this is an earlier version of our YSAMS table, but I chose it because I think it's a little bit clearer to see what's kind of going on here. So for a given structure, you can see the same structure going down here, and the age of that structure, or the years going down, as well as the age. And this is a particularly old structure. Our average age of our state system bridge is about 33 years, and our local are about 38 years. So this is kind of an outlier as far as age, but it'll do for demonstration. So we have a current condition assessment index, and you can see that dropping in time as we deteriorate, whether it is NBI or element level information about that structure. Now you can also see, based off of the criteria and those rules set up, that we identified in a particular year that it triggered one of those rules. And for this one, it was an overlay and expansion joints. So it indicates what year is the optimal or best year to do that work, and at some point that gets retired. The window's closed on that. And it's no longer a viable option. It shows the benefit to that condition assessment index. You can see it went up from 70 up to about 83. It will also give you an estimate of the cost of that work in that given year. It's at current dollars, I believe. It'll give you the estimated life extension of doing that work to the structure, but it also is indicating the incidental or secondary items along that. Those are the items that wouldn't trigger a project, but if it's being selected as a project, very good information to know at the planning end, extremely good information to know at the scoping side. So yep, again, the optimal work, the condition assessment, benefit of the action. What it also does is it looks into the commitments that have already been made in our financial programming system. We call it FIPS. That's where once a project is identified and a commitment made to program it in a particular year, it'll identify it, or it will be sitting out there. And the YSAM systems will search for it, and it will note that that project does exist in a particular year. Here it's out in 2021. We thought this project should happen in 2017. Well, YSAMS is doing this routine based off of unconstrained needs, first of all. And secondly, when the regions or our decision makers at the regional level are programming projects, they've got a lot of other issues to consider in making a decision about programming a project, whether it is the availability of funds, whether it is other projects going on in the vicinity or parallel to this, or a whole host of other things. So we don't really expect each one of these recommendations to be adopted specifically in the year. However, we're expecting most of them to, and we intend to have a program effectiveness measure that will actually look at that and compare how well the recommendations and the reality of the projects that are being programmed materialize. So we're in the transition process now. We've developed reports. We've worked with our regional offices. We've gone out and worked with them to figure out what information, what format do they want that. We worked with our transportation infrastructure management people as far as what information they need. And in their context, they roll that information into the pavements and the safety and the other needs too. So, in this, we're kind of competing, as Dave mentioned, with a whole host of other needs. But as we go forward, we kind of think it's going to be a smooth transition, in that we're not asking them to dump the existing 6-year program. Really what's going to happen is it's going to be translated to some extent to the new definitions that are more granular, and then progressively the YSAM's recommendations will be understood and adopted by the planners and programmers in this. So again, we're moving from the NBI to element level, and that's kind of a big move. There's a lot of things that go along with that, but so far it's been very good, and we've had an awful lot of very good people working on this project. So again, with the whole asset management, bridge management, the game plan is take full advantage of that great inspection information that we're getting. That's the basis of making these decisions as far as where you want to invest in existing bridges. And for us, a big part of it is to have that materialize great recommendations on programs as well as projects for our regional offices. So we brought a good number of people from Wisconsin. I mentioned Travis McDaniel already, but also we've got some of our asset management engineers here, Philip Meinl, Ryan Bowers, and our supervisor, Josh Dietschy. So I hope you have an awful lot of questions about these, and probably some I'm not going to be able to answer. But I really encourage you to talk with these people, ask them questions about what we're doing in more detail. Perhaps we've got some of the tables and background documents with us today. But also share with them some of the things you're doing. Because in the end, it's a cyclical process to build and improve these tools that we have, and only with those conversations will we really get there. So, with that, any questions?
I'm curious what drove the process in Wisconsin. Was it people from the bridge side pushing for, let's do this now, or was it people from the planning side saying, what are we going to do? We're trying to do this in Illinois and not gaining a lot of traction yet?
It was Scott Becker. Well, actually, Scott has given us an awful lot of encouragement and expectations along this. But as we've done it and got further into it, we, at least myself, but I believe others, have saw the value right off the bat. That set of work rules to trigger work, in my opinion, is priceless. That unto itself is worth a sit down and discussion It will vary by region and environmental factors and other decisions in design, but to actually develop that and remove the subjectivity as far as identifying work is priceless. The deterioration curves, and we're going to talk a lot more about that at this meeting, those are things our region can work together to develop ones that are applicable, significantly applicable to the Midwest region. That will play into this, and BRM for that matter. And so, other questions?
Presentation. So, your decision-making matrix, is that computerized mainly, and do you have like actual people look at the data and try to make sense out of it, or you just take it as is and go on and program it?
We've done a lot of examination of the results and sharing that with our regional. We had a number of workshops where we've brought that out there, made the runs into our regional bridge maintenance engineers, asked them, does this make sense? And if not, why? And we go back and adjust the tools and figure out why the disconnect. But, the first passes, it's all automated now based off of those work rules, but our regional staff, our central office staff, as well as national input, helped us build those rules. So we just didn't pull them out of the sky. They were built with a lot of really good input.
Maybe I just have to dig into it more, but I think in Minnesota we are dealing mainly with the deck condition and prediction of work type based on deck condition. I think when we get to the substructures, it's a big unknown for where those costs might run into. And I'm curious how you've managed to put some predicted cost values in that.
Good question. Some of it is elicitation from our staff, reference to past work, and there's a limited number of substructure items in there. Certainly, cracks and things of that nature, things that we can quantify with the inspections. But there's a lot of things that could go wrong in there. We do have items like repair of wing walls and things of that nature, which are a little bit easier to quantify. But there are challenges there, in making those estimates. But again, we'll use what information we have in our best judgment in assigning those costs.
Yeah, have you thought of, are the work rules required or recommended? Have you thought through governance in any way?
Well, the product of all of this is a very good recommendation. In the end, our regional offices can program work for the most part, aside from this. I mean, on high investment, I think we would really have to have consensus, and everyone would want that. But we're providing them with a really good first cut, and since it's unconstrained needs, we're providing them an awful lot more work than they got money to do. So there's going to be some decisions there, but again, it's a much better basis to start from than somebody's gut feeling, or we've got a new programming person and they're just coming up to speed. So there's a lot of consistency here and ability for them to identify true needs.